Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at what's left of China's exclusive version of Halo MCC inside of our current main global version of MCC, the one that pretty much everybody else has. So, just as a refresher, if you didn't see my previous video covering this, there was a special version of Halo MCC that was made exclusively for the mainland Chinese market. And the reason why they needed a special version of MCC was so that, it could comply with the government censorship rules there. And thus, that's why we have this separate version of MCC, which is very outdated compared to the main version that we have. However, despite that, in our main version, there's actually a way that you could enable the censorship features again, and kind of get like a experience without actually having to buy that separate version yourself. And all you had to do was just in the main MCC folder, just in the top level of it, all you gotta do is just create a new file, name it Pegasus, no extension or anything, just an empty blank file named Pegasus, and that's it. And that would actually enable the I guess we can call it Pegasus mode. It would enable Pegasus mode, all the Chinese censorship features, for MCC PC. And this is the Steam version I'm using too. This is not like a special version out there. This is just the regular Steam version that anybody can get. And when you have that file there and you start the game up, then it actually enables many of the features again. So that suggests that the Chinese version of MCC is not really a separate version exactly. There are a few things that are changed here and there, like different files included, but it seems like overall, the version that we have, it's like the same version, except these censorship features are actually disabled, whereas the China version has that file included, which enables it. That's what my guess is. But anyways, for this video, we'll be taking a look at what still works from the China version within our current version, since it has all the features included. The whole Pegasus mode is still there. So the first thing is that cutscenes, even though they were censored and changed for certain parts of the missions, they are no longer changed anymore in the current version, in the Steam version, if you enabled Pegasus mode again. Now, as for the biggest, one of the most notable things with this version is that dead bodies will shrink when you kill them, and there's also no blood either. But what about our current version with the features enabled? Well, here we are on the US Steam version with the features enabled. As you can see, dead bodies no longer shrink. However, there is no blood still. So it's kind of like a halfway point. Seems like some features were removed while others still remain behind. So no more shrinking dead bodies, but still no more blood at all. And it's still pretty much like Halo 5 levels of blood, which means pretty much non-existent. And that applies for classic and anniversary graphics, and doesn't matter what enemies or what bipeds you attack, it'll be the same. And in the actual Chinese version, it was human blood was an absolute no-no. There were some games where you could have Covenant blood here and there, but human blood, no. Now, because bodies shrank in the Chinese version, Flood never revived because their bodies shrank away. But now, even though they don't shrink anymore, they can revive now, despite no blood or anything. But yeah, that's I guess that's one big improvement there, because now the Flood can actually come back. But because the Flood didn't revive earlier, it did actually make the Flood a little bit easier in the Chinese version of the game, because you don't have to worry about them coming back. Now, that also affects, the lack of blood also affects certain Easter eggs still, like the Rex Easter egg at the end of Halo 1 during the Warthog run. They're in this little room here. There should be the word Rex written on the wall in blood, but that's not there anymore at all, and it's still not here on the PC version if you enable the Pegasus mode. So that's about it for Halo 1, for stuff that still works from the censored version. As for Halo 2, same thing. The cutscenes are actually no longer censored, because, especially for Halo 2, the cutscenes are just pre-rendered, cinematics, and if you actually want the censored cutscene, you would actually have to have the file included, which it's not in the game files for the US version of MCC on Steam. Now, if you replace the cutscene, then yeah, you could have this version. But just enabling the Chinese censorship mode, the Pegasus mode, it's not gonna magically make the cutscene appear. Now, what about dead bodies? Well, in the original, like the actual China version of MCC, not our PC version, there was absolutely no blood at all, especially for humans. And same thing with Halo 1, the bodies just shrink when they die, and that applied for everything. Every character, every enemy, every creature. When they die, they shrink down, and no blood at all. Now, what about our version of MCC now with the mode enabled? Well, bodies still shrink on Halo 2, but there is now blood. So it's kind of like the opposite of Halo 1, where bodies no longer shrink, but there's still no blood. Now there is blood, but bodies still shrink. And that applies to every character as well. And they all bleed normally now. However, even though they bleed normally, there's no blood splatter on the floor. So now this is kind of like Halo Infinite levels of blood, if you saw the gameplay demo, where when you shoot enemies, there was blood, but it never stuck to the ground or anything. So yeah, it's still toned down, but it's not totally like removed and censored like it is in the original China version of MCC. And now humans have blood too when you shoot them. Bodies still shrink, but now they actually have blood, which was kind of like, totally not allowed in any of the Halo games on MCC for China. Now, as for the Flood, so in the actual like China version of MCC, when you kill the Flood, actually when you shoot them, you could like dismember their limbs, or you could completely like disintegrate them with like an energy sword or rocket launcher, and they'll break apart into many pieces. Well, that works now again. On the China version, you could not do that. When you kill the Flood, no matter what, you could not dismember their limbs. And when they die, they had like generic death animations instead of like breaking apart into pieces. And if you do enough damage to them with an energy sword, then they just go poof. As for the Flood carriers, now they have like explosion effects. Whereas on the actual China version, if you remember from that, and I do highly recommend you guys watch that video if you haven't already, but the Flood carriers, they would, when you shoot them, they would just drop dead and then just go poof and then spawn the infection forms. There'll be no like explosion effect at all. You don't see like anything. They just vanish and then these things appear, and that's how it was. But shrinking bodies does still work on the Flood when they die if you don't completely destroy them, and it even works on cut Flood enemies as well, like the Flood Juggernaut, which we could spawn on a PC now thanks to mods. And as for blood, because blood is not allowed to stick on the floor, strangely enough, it actually does show up with Rex Easter egg. With the Rex energy sword Easter egg, you can still see blood splattering on the floor. This is like the only exception to the no blood rule with this version of MCC being enabled. It's like it doesn't remove all blood anymore. It only somewhat removes blood, but that's only for like blood splatter from enemies, and blood that's already spawned there apparently is okay. So that's about it for Halo 2 for stuff that still works. Anything else I didn't mention, that means it doesn't work. I don't want to like go through every single little thing because that would make this video super long. But as for Halo 3 and newer, this is where things get a little odd, or a little bit surprising. So while Halo 1 and Halo 2 still had some features still working if enabled it, in Halo 3, so dead bodies instead of shrinking, they just fade away, and Covenant could have a little bit of blood, but humans, no blood at all. And if they die, they shrink away as well. Now, on the Steam version of MCC, the most up-to-date version, there's pretty much nothing. That if you enable the Pegasus mode with the Chinese censorship features, nothing changes about Halo 3 that I could tell. I don't think the blood levels have been decreased at all. Dead bodies don't shrink or fade away, and blood can splatter to the ground as well. And humans have blood too now if you shoot them. And the Flood, well, on the China version, you can't dismember them, you can't break them apart, and they have generic death animations. They die, as you can see here. And when they die, they just fade away eventually. And no matter what you do, you cannot break them apart, like I said. But now on our version of MCC, with this mode enabled, the Flood can be broken apart again, and they do bleed a lot when you shoot them as well. So I'm pretty sure, I've been pretty thorough about it, but it's I'm pretty sure there's nothing left of the censorship mode for Halo 3. But Halo 1 and 2, still a few things left you could do to experience what it's like without having to buy the game. As for newer games like Halo 4 pretty much worked the same as Halo 3, where Covenant blood is okay and dead bodies just fade away instead of shrinking. And of course, human blood is still a no-no at the time. So that's this is on the China version of MCC. Now on our version, well, there's no Halo 4 yet for PC, and you know, if when Halo 4 does come to MCC PC, then I'll definitely check it out. And if anything's different, then I might do an update to this. But based on Halo 2 Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary is pretty much just, you know, based off the Halo 4 engine, and it's safe to say, like, if something happens in Halo 2 Anniversary, then it would happen in Halo 4 and vice versa. But as you saw there, Halo 2 Anniversary is perfectly normal. There wasn't really much blood in Halo 2 Anniversary to begin with, but there was some nonetheless. And as for Halo Reach and ODST, well, those games were never on the China version of MCC, so it's not surprising that nothing happens when you enable the mode for Halo Reach. And as for ODST, it doesn't exist yet either, but if something does come up with that, I'll definitely do an update with that as well whenever it releases on PC. But yeah, so there you guys have it. That is basically what's left of China's version of MCC in our current global version of MCC. As always, if you guys did enjoy this video and found it to be interesting, make sure to leave a like. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Anything else you want me to check out or look into, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll definitely do my best to check it out when I get a chance. But other than that, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.